Good evening, parents. Face behind all the phone calls, this is Jay Blavatt, your principal here at Palm Beach Gardens High School. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for our open house. There's so much to be proud of here on our campus, but I want to talk to you tonight about what we consider to be our three essential goals. First, safety. Second, we're going to talk about academics. And the third thing we're going to talk about is culture. So while I have you here, let's start with safety. As you know, we are a pilot school for metal detectors, and we're excited for the opportunity to do that. We've had some bumps trying to get it going, but since the beginning of the year, we have increased our efficiency from where we started, which was about 7 minutes when students were in line, down to less than 1 minute as your students are entering the school. And just like your student, we work on constantly trying to improve our craft. And so what we've done is we've worked hard to make sure that our students know to have their computers out in front of them, their bags in the middle of their chests. And we know that we're doing a better job of keeping your students and our campus safe. So we're very, very proud of what we're doing when it comes to our metal detectors. Some other things that you may not be aware of is something we call the 15-15 rule. And that's within the first 15 minutes of class, the expectation is that your student's in class. And we also don't send students out the last 15 minutes because that allows us to clear the halls and also lets the class start when the bell rings. Something else that we've really enhanced this particular school year in order to make our campus more safe is ensuring that when students are out in the hallways, they have a hall pass. And all those hall passes are uniform. So we know when a student's out in the hallway, they belong out there. And we're constantly sweeping those halls. Something else that you may be aware of is also ensuring that we're keeping students safe in our restrooms. You told us those weren't the best places last year. And so we've really increased our supervision to ensure that those are places where students can get in and get out safely, and also make sure that they're open and available to our students. We're constantly changing which ones are open, and we're also supervising those hallways. Something else that's been a real hot topic for us, and it goes back to safety, is our dress code. We expect our students to be in dress code every day. That means that all tops have sleeves. Their pants are at mid-thigh. We also identify rips and holes over the mid-thigh. The point here is that we can easily identify a student who doesn't belong on our campus. And something else that we've put in consistently this year has been our students and their ID badges. When your student comes through the metal detector and then comes through the Jurassic gates, they always scan in, and we know who should be here and who should not. So we thank you for your support in helping to keep our school safe. What we think has really helped our school this particular school year has been the firmness and consistency in the application of our school rules. We know that if students engage in an altercation, they're going to be suspended, and if not, removed from the campus. We also are daily checking to make sure students are in class, that they're not skipping, because if they're not in class, they're not learning. And that comes with the consequence of a Saturday school or an after-school detention. Parents, now is the time for you to be checking your students' grades in SIS, as well as checking student conductor for school attendance. And click on the QR code to learn how to go ahead and sign up for student conductor. The next thing that I want to talk about is academics. As you know, our mission here at Palm Beach Gardens High School is for every student to graduate. And when they graduate with their cohort, college and career ready. And that's what we work on every single day, but it starts with you making sure that your students are here with us, in attendance and on time. Something that we focus on is student tardiness, ensuring that they're in class when the bell rings. In fact, we give them 7 minutes from one class to the next. And while we're a large campus, as you will learn tonight, moving from one to the other with purpose ensures students will make it on time. But getting them here in the mornings, if they're not riding the bus, please get them here early to get through the metal detector lines, ensure they get breakfast, and make sure they're ready to go each and every day. We also do something where we check on skipping. At the end of each day, our administrators pull a list of students who were in attendance one period but not in another period. And those students are called on each day to ensure it's just a clerical error. As I mentioned earlier, consequences come for that. And if a student's regularly out of attendance, they jeopardize the opportunity to rather keep or lose their driver's licenses. And we don't want any of that. When we talk about academics, What we're talking about is we're in a status called CS and I as a school. Don't worry about the letters, but what it means is over the past few years, a variety of subgroups on our campus have fallen below the federal index line of 41%. Let me tell you what it means. What it means to you is that in the classrooms, there will be more classroom visits. Your students should come home and say, Mr. Blavatt was in my class today, or one of the other assistant principals, or someone I didn't even know was walking around and asking me what I was learning. It's a greater amount of oversight of what's happening academically on our campus. More focus will be placed on the lessons that our teachers are teaching, ensuring that they're diversifying their curriculum to meet the needs of all of our students, and a greater magnification on student test performance. We call them high stakes tests, but more importantly, it's the tests that they take in regular intervals, like the USAs that come regularly at the completion of each unit, as well as those large state tests that come at the end of the year. I'll share with you on the screen now our testing calendar. Now, before you get overwhelmed, this is our internal document, but we'll be regularly sharing with you when major high stakes tests are coming, but you need to check with your student to find out when they're taking USAs. The expectations for testing are that you send your student in with a charged Chromebook each day, and especially for testing. And also, you make sure that your child is offering their best effort. The benefit of these tests for us, it's like a doctor's checkup, right? You go in, the doctor says, does this hurt? Does this hurt? Does this hurt? And we're constantly diagnosing based on what hurts, what medicine you need in order to get well. It informs our instructional practices, and it creates data. I use a lot of sports references, but it's like a scoreboard. When we get to see how your student's performing, what we're doing is we're taking the curtain back from looking at the scoreboard. So now we know, are we down? Do we need to press? Do we need to hold the ball? We get to make academic decisions based on your student's performance. And we do keep score, and we do watch the film. And that film, that data, how your students perform, it helps us to create practice plans for your students. So those practice plans look like tutoring, after school tutoring, Monday through Thursday. In fact, if you're interested in tutoring, there's a QR code that's hopping on the screen here in just a moment that you can use to click and give us some information about what your needs are when it comes to tutoring, or your students' needs are when it comes to tutoring. Please complete this survey for us. As I mentioned, when it comes to academics, it all comes back to our mission, which is to ensure that all students graduate college and career ready. So those tests that I mentioned earlier, those are progress monitoring tests that happen 3 times in a school year through English language arts classes. In fact, the 9th and 10th graders who take that test just completed PM1 last week. They'll have additional tests in the winter and then in the spring. For algebra and geometry students, they take what's called the BEST test. Those are the new standards, and those come at the end of the school year. U.S. history and biology are tested subjects, as well as regular intervals are what are called USAs, unit tests that help us to see how your student's progressing. As mentioned, at the end of the semester in the winter, there'll be midterms, and at the end of the year, there'll be final exams. But that's not all. Students can take the SAT, ACT, and PSAT, which are national norm reference tests that also allow your student to compete for scholarships, but also qualify for graduation. In addition to those particular tests, students that are taking dual enrollment classes, ACE, and advanced placement classes will also test in order to receive credit and college acceleration points for the school. The last type of tests that I'll mention are for our career technical courses. When a student takes a career technical course, they complete a certification exam at the end of the course. These all count for not only your student, but also for our school grade. And that's a little bit about academics here at Palm Beach Gardens High School. The last thing that I want to mention, that's our third major goal for the year, is to improve our culture. Many of you have seen it through our weekly newsletters. You're hearing it through the phone calls and being on TV tonight. But what we've talked about is a guaranteed minimum for all of your students. Every student that comes here is guaranteed academic access, is guaranteed to follow the rules with our dress code, is guaranteed the opportunity to be successful. But beyond those guaranteed minimums, we want greatness for your student. You see, your child is too good not to be greater. And we have this mantra here about being a greater Gator. I wish I could take credit for it, but it's been here for a long time. And it's reaffirmed every day in our expectations that we share with your student and with you, because the goal is not to just be good, but the goal is to be great. And when we talk about being a greater Gator, we talk about having goals, not just today, but tomorrow, for the full school year and beyond. What are you working towards? We talk about always being positive. And to me, what are you doing that would make your family proud? That if they were around the corner, they'd say, that's my baby. That's what he did. We talk about taking ownership, and that's huge. I'm sure it's just as hard at home as it is here at school. We make mistakes, but we own them. If you don't do your homework and fail a test, you got to do better. You got to make sure you get that work done. You take ownership for being out of dress code. You take ownership for making sure that you're where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. And we've seen a tremendous increase in student performance with that. We talk about being on time. I can't harp on it enough. It's your word. And we say that to our students. 7 minutes to get to one side of the campus to the other. It can, and it does get done. And the last thing we talk about is being respectful. Always being respectful. To me, that comes with please and thank you. Yes, sir, and no, sir. And the expectation, you should have that for me too. But beyond that, it's making sure that nobody eats alone at lunch. So these are the traits of being a greater Gator. The goal for us is to have a positive, connected community experience. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. I wish you a lot of opportunity to walk around the campus. Come back and join us for many more great things that happen here, and have a great evening. Thank you guys. Go Gators.